this evening with, I think it's appropriate, considering what we have in front of us, a pledge of allegiance. If you rise for that, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get it underway. One correction I do have to make, it's my fault, the buck stops with me, and that's on your ballots, each one of you should have received a ballot. And we'll exercise that towards the end of the evening. Mr. Recker's name on your ballot, I don't know why, I should have checked it. It's James on the ballot. He's really a frank fellow. So, please, I apologize for that. It's about the only mistake so far. Let's go on with the rest of them. Your host tonight is, of course, Preserve Our Paradise, of which I happen to be chairman. And for those of you that may not be too familiar with Preserve Our Paradise, just a quick line. We are a citizens committee formed about 3 years ago by residents of Marco Island. We are a special interest committee. Our special interest is you, the residents. Thank you. Okay, the format tonight, all the candidates have been informed of the format, but you haven't. So real quick, we're going to have a challenger and a challenged. Beginning from left to right, the first person, Mr. Guidry. Sorry, Doctor, yeah. Dr. Guidry will come up and challenge any of the other remaining candidates of his choice. The challenge candidate will step up, will be called up on a carpet, and Dr. Guidry will pose any question he wants, has 30 seconds to do this. The challenged candidate will have 2.5 minutes to respond, after which the challenger will have 2 minutes to rebut. So it runs 30 minutes to ask, 30 seconds to ask, thank you, 2.5 minutes to respond, 2 minutes to rebut. They sit, the next candidate up comes up. Simple, quick. It's my job to keep it running a little bit. I don't want to see anybody fall asleep. So, having said all that, number one chair, please.
First things first, I just wanted to thank you guys and Pop and Russ for having us here because, as you all know, this is your first chance to see my smiling face and shining head. And for those in the back, yes, I am short, and I'm over here. Thank you very much. Just a real quick comment because I'm sort of a new face on this campaign. We've lost some people, some good people. But for the right reasons, and my goal is to tell you, to prove to you that it's for the right reason. I see a lot of faces here that I do recognize as patients of mine. Not to fear, I am not going to stop being a doctor here on Marco, but I had a long talk with my partner, Dr. Mitch Shaw, back there, and my wife, Catherine, and my baby, Aubrey, and they understand that the problems with Marco go much deeper than getting home by 5:30. So they've committed to me, and I'm here to tell you that we are going to do the right thing and take Marco back. So, may I begin with my first question? Okay, I have to ask Dr. Recker to please step up. May I call you Dr. Recker? I know you're also a lawyer.
Whichever is least offensive to the crowd.
Good answer. You're a dentist, and that fact is well known. Also, I happen to know a little bit about dental school. There is a lot of heavy science that's involved with dental school. You made the comment at one point that the suffering of the people of Marco Island was a stunt. maybe you would wish to clarify why you said that.
Sure. I'll correct what I said first. First, I'd like to take the same liberty you did, introduce my wife and son, the most important part of my life on Marco Island. Sandy, Mac, would you please just say hi to the people? All right. The comment Andy's referring to was when I ran into him at council one night when he was giving an award for donating his property or something. And he also then commented that night, I believe, that he had encountered patients that had presumably had symptoms related to hydrogen sulfide gas. In science, if you want to publish an article, it's a peer-reviewed article, you don't make a factual statement and then get it published. You have empirical data you must provide to substantiate. Data which is objective, which is studied by your peers, which is analyzed for scientific sufficiency, and then which is established to have scientific validation and foundation. If someone gets up, if I get up to you and say, the caries rate on Marco Island is twice that of Naples, many of you may accept my credentials as DDS-JD and say, wow, that's really interesting. That's not empirical data. That's anecdotal data. I don't think we should make decisions on anecdotal data. Decisions should be based on facts, objectively verified, objectively scrutinized, and peer-reviewed. Anything else is potentially misleading to you, the citizens, and that's the last thing we want to do.
Well, the fact remains that when this study that I did was published to the City Council, I did tell them this was informal. This was not a double-blind scientific study. And the council still chose to ignore my findings, which revealed that there was over 1% of the people that responded to me were definitely suffering from something which to this day believes to be hydrogen sulfide gas. But I love the fact that studies are being asked for, because that's the one thing the city never did one good study to prove that we need sewers. So if we're going to ask for studies, well, then let's ask for studies on all the grounds. Thank you very much.
Seat number 2.
I too would like to thank Preserve Our Paradise for this opportunity. Closer? Okay. I'd like to thank Preserve Our Paradise for this opportunity. My name is Butch Nealon, and for those of you who do know me, I do own a tie. I would like to ask Jerry Gibson a question.
I own a sport jacket, but I rarely wear them.
We could get along. You state in your brochure that $30 million will be wasted if the STRP is stopped. Can you give me some of the details as to where that $30 million is and why it will be wasted?
Certainly. And if I may, I'd like to correct that figure. It's actually $35 million. In my hands, I'm holding a memo that was sent to our interim city manager, Tony Shoemaker. And basically, I can run through the entire thing for you, but what it amounts to is the expansion of the treatment plant and collection. There's been $37,200,000. Of course, they take away the grants on the 2007 project, which is $2,500,000. Also, less the capacity assessments, which is another $8,270,000. And then you get into things like the funds committed for design work, which for the Lamplighter District, Sheffield District, Kendall, West Winterbury, Sheffield, again, part of the bridge projects. Right on down, that's total design is $1,973,000. Then you get into construction costs committed, which totals $1,820,000. Cost for the state revolving loan fund is $917,000. Legal and bonding costs $300,000. Water plant expansion $4 million. for a total of $35,440,000. And I might add that with the termination, this debt does not go away. It has to be paid somehow, and that's unfortunate. So that is where my figures have come from.
All right, thank you. My response to that is I've seen the memo, and it's interesting to note that the first line item on the memo, the $37,200,000, has no backup. It has no breakout as to what that money is, but I can imagine what part of that is. We have spent $24 million in the 5 districts that we put the pipe in the ground. And that you're correct, that money is spent and it's going to have to be made up. The additional monies that make up the $37 million, I would imagine part of that is the deep injection well. Part of it has to do with some of the improvements that have been done along Collier Boulevard that are being charged to the STRP, which are arguably not STRP costs, along with there are a number of other issues with that. If you go through that whole list and you get to the bottom and you find that $4 million for additional potable water needed if we don't complete the STRP because for some reason we don't get more reuse water, I have one statement for that. Everybody who's irrigating on Marco Island is already irrigating. If you're using potable water, the lack of reuse water to you in no way means that we have to increase the size of our potable water plants. That's a pure Ronnie Joel fabrication. That $4 million is just puff, doesn't exist. And the rest of those figures are probably just about as accurate. Thank you.
Mr. Waldeck?
I, too, would like to thank Pop for having us here tonight. I would like to introduce my wife, but I'm not married, so I can't do that. But I'd like to wish all of our Jewish friends happy Hanukkah, because this is the start of Hanukkah. It's the second day of Hanukkah. All our other friends, our Christian friends, I'd like to wish them a Merry Christmas. With that, I have a question for Mr. Nyland. Not understanding your explosion at the council meeting the other night, to Mr. Joel, after being informed that your facts regarding assessment allocation versus contracts were incorrect, I will not ask you a question that might cause another outburst. The question I will ask is, did you support and do you still support Russ Colombo's proposal referendum called for a vote of public confidence every 2 years or 4 years to retain the city manager? Please explain your position or change in position.
I did sign the petition for Pop, and I do support Pop's right to put a referendum before the people. I believe that the City Council's action on 2 occasions to prevent the people of Marco Island from their right to referendum on this issue was dead wrong, and that they should have allowed it to go to referendum and then worked as hard as they could to defeat it at referendum.
Now, my opinion on that is a little bit the opposite. However, I do think Russ had a good idea with putting the city manager up to a confidence vote, but really not through an election process. My recommendation is one of an advisory committee that would review the performance of the city manager and then bring it to the city council. I don't think the city council or city manager should be subject to vote, because that's a bad thing. It's a non-political position. That's the way it should remain. It's an administrative position, and that's the way it should remain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, this man is amazing. I'm going to take 2 seconds and tell these people this guy just had back surgery 2 days ago. And there he is.
Thank you. I've been very, very impressed with the medical facilities down here. And it's a tribute to NASA, NASA, neurosurgeons, and Physicians Regional Hospital that I'm here tonight, because I had a major herniated disc. They operated it on Monday morning. They turned me loose Tuesday afternoon, and here I am. My wife, Linda, is here. Thank you. And I'd like to follow up with Mr. Waldeck. I think the major, and I'd like to next preface my comments with the fact that there aren't any bad people here. There aren't any people here that don't love Marco Island. There aren't any people here that aren't doing whatever they can to better our island. And we have different viewpoints, we have different perspectives. But just because we don't disagree, that doesn't make us bad people. I will take a little exception to Mr. Waldeck's negative comments towards Mr. Nayland. I don't think that was necessary and added to the discourse. But more importantly, my question to Mr. Waldeck is the ability to petition our government is one of the most fundamental rules of our democracy. It's one of the most fundamental rules in our charter. It is the only recourse you as citizens, we as citizens, have against our government is to petition it. It's spelled out very clearly what we have to do to petition the government. If we meet those criteria, then the government has the obligation to hear our petition and to put our referendum forward. Whether or not we agree with it or they agree with it is immaterial. The right to put the petition on the ballot is what matters. To deny us that right is to disenfranchise us from our constitutional rights. Mr. Waldeck spoke very eloquently in trying to urge the council to reject the POP's petition, and I submit that his role should have been, you put this on the ballot and let the people speak. I will argue long and hard. I will long and hard against it, but it belongs on the ballot. You put it on the ballot, you let the people speak. Excuse me. My question is, how do you support your position that we didn't have the right to vote on that initiative?
Because I disagree with the referendum as it was put, because it calls for a city manager, which is a non-elected position, administrative position. It's the same as if you were to come into my office and tell me what secretary I could hire. It is strictly an administrative position. The city council, a city manager works for the city council, and that's the way it should be. He is answerable to the city council only. Don't get me wrong. He should be judged by the citizens, and that judgment should be turned over to the city council for any action, but not put to a vote. That's the only disagreement that we have on that issue.
My response?
No, you'll get a chance as a second round.
No, I get a response.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was. I'm sorry. You caught me asleep. I am so sorry.
Okay, excuse me. You're trying to trick me up here just because I'm under drugs. And here's the essence of it. Here is the failure to recognize our rights for representative government. If we pass a ballot, if we pass a referendum that contains 1,300 signatures that we want pink flamingos on every street corner, our city council has to put that on a ballot and put it out for vote. We cannot deny the citizens the right of petition. That's in our charter. It's absolute. That is the only right that we have for representative government, is to induce a petition, a referendum on the ballot. It's very clear. 1,300 signatures, automatic. You get put on the ballot, and then people get to vote. If you don't want flamingos, you vote against it. We don't have flamingos. But to deny us the right to make the decision is very, very wrong, and that's what's wrong with this whole government. The existing structure is structured to tell us, to deny us our right to have a role and voice in our government. It dictates to us, it rules us, it doesn't represent us. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Beatty?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Beatty, and I like to consider myself the people's candidate trying to bring our city back to you. I'm glad that I'm able to stand here because I want to start off our first candidate tonight as being able to stand and show my future constituents the respect I will always show for you when we get into office, and always remember that you're the very reason that we're there, to represent you, not to demean you, turn you out, or request that you sign permission slips when you come to speak with us. I want to thank Pop very much for inviting me tonight. I respect your organization, sir. You've done some remarkable things in your short being, and I'm very, very proud of what you've been able to do. But most important, I'm very proud and privileged to be able to stand here and speak to the people of Marco Island, because that's the most important thing as a candidate that I could ever do, and that is to speak with you. I have a question for Mr. Recker. Mr. Recker, I've always felt that individuals who have chosen a life in the public eye would be smart enough not to get hung by their own tongue. In announcing your candidacy, I read, and I'll quote, "If I walk into a courtroom and another attorney is trying to annihilate me by using facts, law, and persuasion, he's doing his job, but when we leave, we can be friends. There should be no difference in government. There should be no difference in government." Perhaps this is true in the courtroom, but can I expect this as the attitude you will take when you encounter something with someone who disagrees with you, sir?
Job, I think maybe you misinterpreted what the article was saying. What I'm saying is, whether it's government, a courtroom, a home, a session of mediation, or at the basketball court, people can always communicate, be level-headed, be fair-minded, keep your tone down, be respectful of the person you're talking to, and they will respect you. I don't walk into a court and raise my voice to the judge. I respect him. He will lose respect for me if I don't address him appropriately. All I am saying is, we need to go back to a form of government where I can take my 13-year-old son in there in a city council meeting and feel comfortable that he's not going to be exposed to hostile adults, non-communicative, shouting out, booing, hissing. That is inappropriate. That would be inappropriate in his classroom. It's certainly inappropriate in our home environment. I want to create the environment in government that we all expect on this small island. Mutual respect, courtesy, dialogue. We can work out things. All we need to do is try, stay calm, respect each other, and keep talking. We can solve any problems we encounter. Thank you.
Sir, I don't remember how many council meetings you've been at in the past 2 years. I haven't seen you at many, but I've been at pretty much every one. And what I see by the people who go to these council meetings are people that act very professionally. At times, certainly, they get very, very, very concerned about some of the things that happens with our council, simply because this is a council, as you probably will know in whatever meetings you went to, this is a council that when you stand there and talk with them, they look the other way and probably don't hear a thing that you say. At least that's the impression. But if in spite of that, these folks that I see here tonight, many of which have been on council meetings with me that I've seen, have always acted with uppermost respect. This spin about mean-spiritedness by people at council meetings, I'll tell you, I've been at some council meetings in other cities, etc., where I've seen people really get ticked off with some of the things that really go on at these council meetings. I give a lot of respect for these people. They have a lot of fortitude to be able to put up what they put up with at council meetings. They should. They come out, they pack the rooms. In the summer, they've been all out. They're concerned. These people, sir, have lost their government. These people, sir, will get their government back. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Gibson.
I am not going to go on a long diatribe. I'll just get right to the question. I do want to thank everybody for taking the time to come out this evening, though. And remember, at 9:30, Villanova basketball. But I have a question for Mr. Batty, please, Joe. Is it Beatty?
It's Beatty, Jerry. It's Beatty.
Beatty.
Okay, but that's okay.
I was not insulting you.
I understand. I understand.
Basically, I just would like to know, what is your opinion of the fiscal responsibility or irresponsibility shown by City Council in regards to the millage rate over the last 10 years?
In terms of the millage rate over the past 10 years, I think this council, Jerry, has been totally irresponsible in terms of the budget that they've put up. They have made every attempt to keep our millage rate down, okay? But they have put us in a very, very serious position. And I would allude to the stripping of our emergency reserves that have happened right now, where our emergency reserves that are at a critical pace. I would say to you, basically, that this city council is now looking around to do the job that it really needs to do in terms of looking at our dangerous and problematic infrastructure, and they're looking for ways to pay it after they've drained our city budget on an unnecessary utility program that nobody ever sanctioned, nobody ever wants, and is unneeded and is bad science. This is a city that has no fiscal responsibility. This is a city that's fiscally irresponsible and has left us in a very terrible state. I'm very, very concerned about this. We need to really redirect how we spend. We need to turn our faces towards fiscal conservatism. We need to look at a bloated bureaucracy, and hopefully we can do this fairly soon and get this underway. I very much want to see a forensic audit of the city. I want to know where. I'm more concerned, Jerry, rather than talking to me about technicalities of the millage rate. I'm more concerned about finding out where all our money's gone. And when we find out where that money is gone, holding those who may be accountable for where it's gone accountable. And let us get back on the right road in this city. I don't want to be over, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry. Thank you.
No,
I'm sorry. Okay.
I would just like to comment on a couple things that you said there. First of all, the millage rate and taxes have nothing to do with STRP. Obviously, that is being funded from the utility sources. But I certainly do not want to get in a position